break these down. So,
All right, let's get this show going. We're just going to keep this in the background because I needed something to give me a rough timeline. So this is going to go on. But I'd actually like to cover, you'll see some material from me from Stoker's live stream, talking about TikTok and stuff like that from the military. But actually, we're going to focus on Jordan Patterson's. We'll get into Blue Book and Black Book here in a minute about what it is. But JP talking about malpractice, or what is the term here? Let's see if we can get to the title. So this hopefully will be good representation of JP, me being the cat and him being the fox, because eventually we're going to get into different methodologies, the range of spectrums in certain conditional models, specifically JP's methodology. He can't really do so much as a psychologist to deal with the situation, but we're going to play out the narrative, the masquerade, or the play here in such a way that other people in the case study potentially as a shaking hands with danger for the mastectomies and I forget exactly what they're called. I'm not exactly an expert inside here, and I'm going to be running very much parallel to a meta type situation for soldiers and why we have sharps guys in a lot of these circumstances, because you will find a lot of this misconduct and misrepresentation of things like drill sergeants or psychologists or mathematicians and a bunch of other stuff. So we're going to keep that in mind while we go through this. And this is transition for minors is malpractice, and this is Cole. I think that's her name, Cole, and she was a young lady, wanted to transition to a boy, led into this by the hospital's doctrine to correlate money, push suicide, whatever model this is going to get into. So they do ask her the question. These are very important topics about when she started puberty, and this is going to be pretty relative. This is just to gauge a baseline, face reactions, and a bunch of everything, which is a soldier. Anybody else that might have been misrepresented inside of a situation about what might be going down here on the rabbit farm, as far as what somebody will look past, or emotionally contagion, or I forget exactly what the term is to push somebody over the edge and not the direction. Again, this is things that they will let pass out of their gates, and Salty will kill you. They'll leave you upside down in a snowbank, man. And then use those terms against you later as well.
Okay.
So we'll get into that in here just to get down to Stoker. Let's see, we start this off.
Okay.
You're going to be talking about Project Blue Book here a little differently in terms of how we're integrating the set and dealing with it. Remember, generally I'm going to play the not so psychologically based material, more of a military doctrine based build, standard temple construct for how you would gauge psychologists from a board position as JP to call somebody out as a malpractice. Just because the doctrine A doesn't necessarily mean that there's not systems B or subfields within that system about what you would do with a candidate like me or her or somebody in the field that's about to get mashed out by the machine in some way, shape, or form because of some nonsensicals. And then he's talking about Blue Book and what is it, Byron, or he was calling him what was his name, Byron von Stover, and that's the Blue Book and Black Book, which here's my Black Book. But you'll take notes like this, and you'll see me, a bunch of, it was a 2.5 hour thing he did there with JP. JP is going to go through the well-established facts of certain grammatical values that say why we shouldn't do that in that department because we catch a negative return, right? Whether it be me or Cole there. You know, it's like, this is going to be an issue when this has come up on somebody's gate about, like, you didn't recruit this person into a better department, whether they're intellectual and you might say that they have schizophrenia, personality disorder, or autism or something like that. And Cole was a 9-year-old into 15 out to 16 and where she is today. So we're going to try to keep that in mind and parallel the situation. Now, JP brought up something as far as during some of the questioning that there's an interest in boys and girls, that usually the interest of boys and girls shift a little bit. Well, this also changes into how you interest guys, usually a little bit longer, or excuse me, shorter, because we're, at least in the time cultural model that we are today, inside of a system that says, hey, boys are going to roll around in the snow, they're going to take chances, a little bit more risky overall by the N number in general functioning the dominion, and women are going to go long, right? They want a longer term relationship, at least in general. There are obviously some outliers inside of this field, so you have to be modeled for this. It's like lots of departments around here that we can do. JP is going to give you again some real bases. So we're going to say JP is trained to really not just notice this from a YouTube perspective, but also again this masquerade or show that has to be done. And this is something when we recreate the Sharps models is something that we do quite considerably, because this will lead to negative returns. When you put a young lady like that in there that's at the age, doesn't know anything, let's call it, I'm skipping ahead a bit here, but quite a bit ahead. Actually, the number of 0 to 18 is white phase. You could call it blue phase. M2 would be 18 to 36, and red phase is 15 or 36 to 54. You're obviously going to see a number base inside of there, just like boys and girls at a certain age. It works well when we were defining the Alice state of Cole and what she probably was high likely to do. And specifically in the malpractice department here is a number that correlates. She was red shifting or blue shifting to the responses and facial reactions, not just hopefully that JP would pick up on, but also something that I would pick on. Now later on she was groped in school as a standpoint. You could tell this really bothered her, but she didn't turn it in. She didn't do any of the situations because she didn't really know at that age. Still feeling things out. Or a soldier, being me, didn't really know terms of blue books or criteria under the training models of these situations that, that's what it actually looks like. You could be this guy right here, because Sharps is an equal opportunity guy, or at least Drill is in this case. But if that came up on Drill's books, you can be sure Sharps would feed him his heart. Find out that was in there, tattoo policies and otherwise. But that's where a difference in Army doctrine, cultural beliefs, our outliers in feminism here in the States versus other countries and things like that, and how you must understand calculations in terms of a base. I'm giving you a priority. Just don't walk over to another country and start stomping all over the beliefs when it's in a higher majority than what we're in here. There are some middle ground fields in there, or maybe even time topologies where that would be, but they are very, very specific standard models that we kind of adjusted that case. Here's where you can get away with that. Was that one of the defined places where you could get away with this inside of the situation, or is this going to wreck somebody's codpiece later? Again, so I only have a certain amount of time. Continuing this through here. Get back to the start of it. 9 years old, operating call, JP trained to do so. We're setting some baseline criteria.